You start at 7, you finish at 7. Not sure if this truly belongs here, but here it goes. I used to work at a car company about 2-3 years ago as a telephonist on the night shift doing 12-hour shifts. It was pretty good, 4 days working 3 days off, and the pay was decent. However, most people didn't take their job seriously. They would call in sick or just not show up for work at all, and especially on nights when there were only four of us. If one person didn't show up, you felt it. I was a star employee. I showed up early, logged in, and started working usually from 6:30. I never took a sick day, changed my holidays to fit the company's needs, and worked any overtime they needed me to work. I was so dedicated to my role that I had worked on multiple occasions 18-24 hours as people wouldn't show up for shifts and they needed cover. It was my first real job and I believed in the company. I used the train system to get to and from work and always planned out my routes around as much as I could to avoid being late. However, on this particular day they were running a reduced service due to breakdowns. A lot of the trains had been repaired using less than stellar parts, and the wheels kept sticking to the track when they hit the brakes, causing wearing on the wheels in specific spots. So a lot of trains were out of commission. On top of that, the train I was on had been stopped due to a signal issue for 15-20 minutes. This led me to being late. I had shown up about 10 minutes late to the start of my shift. Before I had even sat down, my manager was giving me grief. Apparently they were mad because I had stopped other telephonists going home, as someone had to work 10 extra minutes to cover my shift as 2 people were ill and couldn't make it in. Now I hate being late. I was already pissed off that I was late, but my manager giving me trouble as soon as I walked through the door just irritated me even more. My reply to him was as follows: apologies, I was late. However, how many times have I ever been late? I show up 30 minutes before my shift every day. I have stayed late to covers days before the train had an issue and it was out of my control. I was stuck underground with no signal to call or text to let you know. My manager didn't give a fuck. Their reply to me was, you start at 7, you finish at 7. You are in early on your own time. Those times you have stayed behind you have been paid and no one asked you to. Okay then, was my reply. The next day was extremely busy. My colleague had left and only one of the morning guys had shown up for his shift to take over. As he sat down, I began to pack up. At 7 AM on the dot I left. As I usually helped out when this happened, everyone was surprised and had asked me where I was going. My only reply was, I start at 7, I finish at 7. This was my final shift and so I was off for the next few days. On my first shift back, I get pulled into the office by my manager with HR. They asked me why I left a single telephonist on their own. I looked at my manager and repeated the exact same words that were said to me. My manager informed me, I start at 7, I finish at 7. The look on HR's face was priceless. She was pissed. She already had a staff issue to deal with, and on top of that, one of her most helpful staff members had been mugged off by a manager. She told me to go back to my desk and she needed to speak to the manager in question. 20 minutes later, the manager came back in looking absolutely defeated. He never ever said anything to me again about being late. Manager deserved to get in trouble for that. That's how they ruin good employees. It isn't fair that the bad employees always get away with everything, but the one time the reliable person does something they get in trouble. That is probably why none of the employees cared, to be honest. I don't know what he was like on the day shift.